Convicted murderer Danelo Cavalcante was finally arrested after escaping Pennsylvania State Prison and being on the run for 2 weeks. This puts an end to one of the longest manhunts in recent US history, and one of the most unique ones in that he escaped from prison in the same way that another inmate did a short time before. So it's really an indictment of our correction system where two inmates can escape in the same way. He crab walked up a wall, and really the only change between the first and second escape was the facility installing some razor wire. So he's a very interesting individual because he's Brazilian, and he escaped into a rural part of Pennsylvania where he was able to survive on watermelon and stream water for 2 weeks. Here's someone who grew up in Brazil and was familiar with, living in rugged forest type environment. And even though law enforcement put hundreds of officers and they enclosed a perimeter, they were unable to find him because he didn't use technology like typical escapees do. He was able to live off the land with limited resources. But he did steal a car, he did steal some work boots, he even stole a firearm. So it was really, the question was, did law enforcement lose him? And it was just a series of events that resulted in his capture. First, he was caught on several cameras, ring cameras, security cameras, even tripped off an alarm, which enabled DEA to use an aircraft with thermal imaging to find him. One of the challenges they had was some pretty bad weather there in Pennsylvania, which rendered some of the typical technology they used ineffective. But when the weather cleared up, they were identified where he was hanging out. They converged on the area, and using a police dog named Yoda, they were able to arrest him without anyone being hurt, aside from Cavalcante himself. Now, some of the interesting legal aspects of the case are he was convicted of first-degree murder. He stabbed his ex-girlfriend almost 40 times in front of her children in a horrific murder. He was convicted by the jury in a matter of hours, and he was serving a life sentence. He was in county jail for a short period of time. Usually inmates are in county until they're transferred to state prison. He was awaiting transfer to a more secure facility when the escape happened. But he's still going to be charged with felony escape, even though it's not going to add anything, just in case of a small chance of his murder conviction being reversed on appeal. Prosecutors want a belt and suspenders approach to make sure that he's not released from prison, which would be highly unlikely in any event. Some other interesting components, though, are those who helped him and those who didn't help him. On the helping side, or at least allegedly, you have his sister. Now, it's unclear whether she affirmatively helped her brother or she refused to cooperate, but she's also Brazilian and overstayed her visa. And whatever happened between her and law enforcement, she's now in removal proceedings and is going to be removed from the country. The mom didn't affirmatively help, but law enforcement did record her and use her voice and play it loud, and they blasted it, in which she implored and asked her son to surrender. Obviously, he didn't do so. But it's interesting to see law enforcement, leverage some of the family members to try to put pressure on Cavalcante to surrender. Now, he did approach apparently 2 individuals he knew, friends, to ask for help. Either they weren't home or they refused to help. But it's a question of, had someone help or did someone help, whether they can be charged as accessories as well. Well, this closes the book on one of the most wild escapes in US history, and it really begs the question, how did Cavalcante end up here in the first place? Let's not forget, he killed someone in Brazil, a friend, and it was a dispute over money. And despite having an arrest warrant out, he was able to flee the country, end up here in the United States, where he killed again. So I know there are questions about our immigration system, but this is a big one, how someone with a murder arrest warrant in another country could be hiding out in the US, where unfortunately he killed again. And he killed because his girlfriend, who was in an abusive relationship, threatened to report him to law enforcement, and that's why he killed her. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.